All right. So I'm going to read. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the entire. Great. I'm going to read the entire account again, uh, because it was just going blah blah blah. Okay. You can hear. Okay. Cool. I'm going to read everything else again. Here's the situation, folks. As it stands. Why the hey John, how you doing? Just simply have to pull this up all over again, and it is there. If it will allow me to do so. Hold on a second. So cancel that. Cancel that. Oh, here it is. And okay, all right. This all started with a article that was written by the Chronicle and John Shea, and it went like this. If you can get a chance to read it. It said the title was A's legends Dave Stewart and Rickey Henderson point fingers at Oakland for Coliseum chaos. Former A's pitcher Dave Stewart, now special assistant to the general manager, said the city of Oakland should be happy to extend the team's lease at the Coliseum beyond this season. And then it goes on to talk about how they're the pride of Oakland, and the two baseball players, Dave Stewart and Rickey Henderson, were raised in the city, and they became teammates and dominant forces in their hometown team's last World Series championship in 1989. Or, as I said earlier, hey folks, I think we're having an earthquake game that was uttered by Al Michaels. I'll tell you where I was that day. I was coming down back from Berkeley to go to the Golden Bear in Oakland to watch the World Series and meet my client. And that started a whole odyssey that I'm going to take a moment to talk about in another live stream. But I continue. Rickey Henderson and Dave Stewart goes on to read, grew up knowing Oakland as a title town. From 1972 to 74, Oakland Athletics, to 1976 and 1980 Oakland Raiders, to 1974-75 Golden State Warriors, and then experiencing a championship themselves in 1989 when Henderson was the ALCS MVP, Stewart was the World Series MVP. Over time, one by one, all those Oakland teams decided to pack up and leave town. The Raiders twice. So, and I would say on top of that, technically it's the Raiders twice. It's actually four times. And then if you add the Oakland Panthers, which are now the Bay Area Panthers, that's five teams, all right? But at any rate, it's almost as if locals such as Henderson and Stewart, it reads, are numb to the fact that the A's are bolting to Las Vegas. And Henderson says, it's disappointing to see the A's leaving, but we've gone through so much with all the teams. The city, there's something they're not seeing. When you have a city that had three big-name professional sports teams and you can't keep any of them, something is wrong. It's sad for the city. Both Henderson and Stewart have suited up in A's training camp this spring to guide and inspire young players. They see emerging talent. Henderson admires Estuary Ruiz base running skills, and Stewart is impressed with Zach Gelof's leadership skills, but also see a team coming off consecutive 100-loss seasons that again will be challenged to compete in 2024. More than that, the article reads, the Oakland mainstays, Henderson is a special assistant to the president, Dave Cobble, of the A's, and Stewart is a TV analyst on pregame and postgame shows, sees a team that's getting pulled out of town by owner John Fisher, a move that's supported by the other 29 teams, including the Giants, who stand to benefit from a one-team market. Though every relocation bid by Oakland teams has had its own set of reasons, the article goes on to read, the common denominator is the city of Oakland itself, about to go 0-3. At that point, the best Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao and Alameda County can do is negotiate a lease extension for the team and push the A's to sell their half of the Coliseum property that they're purchasing from the county, an unfortunate 2019 transaction that backfired. The A's maintained at the time they needed to develop the property to help fund the ballpark at Howard Terminal, which they actually denied. That's another story. But until further notice, they're ditching town and keeping the real estate. While Fisher works to build a stadium on the Strip that will supposedly open in 2028, Shea writes, He needs a place to play in 2025, 26, and 27. Both sides are playing hardball in negotiations for a Coliseum lease extension. Fisher not wanting to open his vault after paying $1.25 million annually in rent. This is what John Shea claims. And Mayor Thao insists that Oakland would need to secure an expansion team as part of any arrangement. That's a non-starter for Major League Baseball, which eventually will expand from 30 to 32 teams, but has yet started the process of identifying cities as final expansion candidates. Has yet to start it. This was written in a weird way, but I digress. Thao also pushed to keep the team's name and colors in Oakland, which also might be a stretch because the property is of the team and not the city. Quote, the mayor can say whatever she wants to, this is Dave Stewart talking, but if what I'm reading is true, it's the wrong approach. She talked about the lack of jobs because they're leaving, but in the meantime, you have an opportunity to keep jobs and create jobs until 2028 when they do leave. You're going to try to force baseball to give you an expansion team. It's not the way to go about it. When you make that kind of thing public, I think you're just trying to talk your constituents in Oakland, or talk to your constituents in Oakland, the article reads. Stewart is rooting for the A's to stay in the interim years, but isn't confident it'll happen. He says this, even for something as little as getting an extended lease for the stadium, I just don't see there to be a possibility. And he says he doesn't have much faith in Oakland politicians after his group bid to buy the city's half of the Coliseum was ignored. Ugh. The city chose to enter an exclusive negotiating agreement with the African American Sports Entertainment Group, even though Stewart said his group's bid was higher. Fisher is threatening to move the A's to a minor league facility in Sacramento or Salt Lake City in the interim years if an agreement for lease extension isn't reached. At the same time, Mayor Thao and company, Shea writes, no, Fisher stands to lose his regional TV network money, which was $67 million in 2023, by not playing in the Bay Area. The sides met for the second time, not the TV sides, but talking about the A's and the mayor, Thursday, but didn't hash out a new lease, so they'll meet again April 2nd. If Mayor Thao understands Major League Baseball absolutely won't sign off on a future expansion team, she could focus on the bigger picture of getting the A's to sell back the property and pushing them to ante up on a lease. In retrospect, Henderson wished the team in the city had finalized a deal for Howard Terminal Ballpark, saying it was really a no-brainer and win-win for the city, a win-win for the people. It's closer to downtown. Businesses could have been created around there. We need something there. As for expansion to Oakland, neither Henderson nor Stewart would bet on it. It is a possibility, but would have been a better possibility without the bad blood that was between, mayor's office and Major League Baseball, which Sheng created. Libby had done a good job of at least shoring it up. Sheng damaged it. That's me, okay? Not the article. Once they leave, I don't think they'll come back. This is what Rickey Henderson said in the article regarding a Major League Baseball team coming in for expansion purposes. Stewart is a lead official in Music City Baseball, an investment group trying to lure an expansion team to Nashville. So my thoughts on that are these. But before I read them, thank you, Sir Chai. Now that everybody can hear, let me read your comments. Rap Album says, Major League Baseball is not the same league it was in 1975 or 95 or even 2005. It is as unreliable as John Fisher. The answer for Coliseum site is NHL, Major League Baseball, Arena Football. And then he says, Oakland is better than 99 of 100 cities in the USA. You want to live in Topeka? Kansas. So Chai says, we really need to get rid of the strong mayor system. Your video about Hagenberger was spot on. Oakland is mad because they can't turn the Coliseum into another Brooklyn Basin. Yeah. The problem, first of all, there was a lot of chatter on Twitter, and I should go and pull up Twitter right now and address this, that I think at first I thought wasn't correct. And I thought it was not accurate. And I thought it was unfair to Dave Stewart. But in retrospect, I do believe, that there's some thoughts there. Let me share with you the tweets that I saw and respond to them. Okay, uh, not all of them, but the ones that I think that are the most appropriate. And then I'll enlarge Twitter here so you can get a better view of them as we go. Because look, first of all, I think those A's fans who've commented on Dave Stewart and Rickey Henderson being employed by the team, look, you're right on to be concerned that their attitudes are influenced by ultimately the person that pays them. Okay, there is, unless you have an ironclad agreement that you are going to speak on your own and your opinions are your own, you're not representing the company, anything you say, anyone has the right to assume that you are speaking the company's mouth when you talk. Unless of course, you say something different or controversial that you never hear come out of Dave Cobble's mouth, and yet the A's have an ironclad agreement. You can say whatever the heck you want to. And it's quite clear that's not in place. Otherwise, they would have said so. Okay? I'll grant you that. That's absolutely true. But I am also, on the other hand, tired of this idea that just because Dave Stewart and Rickey Henderson are paid by the Athletics, first of all, they should be, that they cannot say anything. Because the people who offer this point of view on Twitter, all right, say, it's as if they want them to not talk. And that's wrong. Everybody has a right to express their view. And Dave Stewart's motivations and Rickey Henderson's motivations don't come from the A's paying them. I simply said I can see how a person would perceive it that way. But that perception doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's actually the case. All right. It doesn't mean that they sat down and, worked out this idea that, you're going to say this, you're going to say that. All right. By the way, I'm sorry. I'll get to that, Sir Chai, your super chat. I didn't mean to do that. At any rate, Sir Chai is saying, and I believe he's right. He says, the chickens are coming home to roost in Oakland. How ironic. Yep. And then he says, watch that Brazil Pratt run cover for Oakland. I think I'll say more about that later because I'm quite disappointed. Brody Brazil, I don't know. Casey Pratt, I'm at least familiar with. And the way that they're handling this is extremely disappointing. I'll move that aside. All right. Rap Album says Major League Baseball is not the same. I got that one. And then I got that one. And then Sir Chai said, we really need to get rid of the strong mayor system. Thank you. I got that one. Then Gravity Falls says, I'm upset the A's are leaving Oakland, but I've been following the stadium saga since Fremont, where I grew up. At this point, I'll take a new stadium in Vegas. And Sir Chai, I got your comments there. Okay. Now let me go on to the tweets. All right. John Shea wrote lots of inaccurate Twitter assumptions regarding these Stewart Rickey comments. Of course, both want the A's to stay. Don't back relocation. They're being real. It's their city. Fisher to blame, but also city, Manfred, Major League Baseball owners, and Giants. And he's absolutely right about that. John is right. There's plenty of blame to go around. And Rickey and Dave have the right to state their opinion. Absolutely 100%. And it's wrong to assume that because they have a business relationship, all right, a business relationship with the Athletics, that they're not speaking fully their mind is incorrect. Again, I can understand the perception, but I'm saying give them the breadth and freedom to care about Oakland. See, my issue with a lot of A's fans is a number of you act like you don't care about one whiff about the city of Oakland. They care about the city and I care about the city. And what I mean by care is I care enough about the city to have built a media business around and within it. I care enough about the city I grew up in to get involved in it, to work for the mayor of Oakland, to be a columnist for the Montclarian first starting out, because I had something I wanted to get out there. I had something I wanted to say. And I was fortunate enough that the late Chris Treadway gave me that runway to do so, okay? And then I discovered blogging through Pyro Labs, which was bought by Google as it happened. And then, of course, Google had the AdWords and AdSense program where you can make money from that, and everything took off from there for me. And that was before anybody else was doing this sort of thing. So my point is that I love it, and it gave me an opportunity, the way Jerry Brown had treated me, to tell people what was going on in the mayor's office. They didn't have an outlet until I made my blog. They were getting things from my blog they weren't getting anyplace else, all right, about what was going on. And so my point is that the reason is that we were not handling Oakland properly. We just weren't. And the city was screwing up back then in many different ways. And I didn't like the way I was treated regarding the Super Bowl, a matter a lot of you are familiar with now. All right. So my point is that I understand why they're saying what they're saying. I understand their points. Excuse me. But I'm going to go on to get Dave Stewart's positions here. I've got that. That's the Chronicle. There was a good tweet storm that was going on that I hope didn't get buried under this poorly designed algorithm that Twitter and Elon have going for them. But so be it. Let's see if I can keep going down here and pulling that out among the multiple content reproductions of both the Chronicle's items and mine. Let's see here. Dave Stewart, and that's John Shea talking about that. And then Bootsy Collins, and I'm not getting what I want here. Okay, so let me try this a different way. I'm going to do this because I'm not getting the comment. So I'm looking for by the standard search, all right? So I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go down. So it's profile. And there wasn't what I was looking there. And then I'm going to try and find, let's see, it just will not come through, will it? Last Dive Bar really started a lot of this. Let me see if I can get his tweets because he was really one of the participants here. Was watching Moneyball. And he said, that was him there. Sell. That was 4 hours there. And here is Athletics. Had that. I think it was more responsive here. He was respectful. The Last Dive Bar was at least respectful of Dave Stewart, which is more like I say for some people. There we go here, and let's go to replies. Okay. He said this right here. He's got a lot of tweets I got to sift through, which I don't see. I like that. Oakland Forever. That's pretty cool. All right. It's not coming up. It's will here. Oakland Last Dive Bar. 4 hours. Patrick's Day. There's someplace he had here. Where is it? It's not there. Not there either. That was 8 hours ago. It's a while ago. In plan coordination. All right. Okay. Still not getting that one. He's got a lot of that. All right. So let me see. If I'm not getting that one, let me try something else. Go back here. Go back here. I'll go Dave Stewart. Thao, like that. That's that. Latest. Nope. How about Dave Stewart, Oakland? Okay. That's not what I want. That's not there. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to get through this. And Dave Stewart had really lowered the boom on a bunch of different people. And I'm going to reduce the size of this. Zoom out. And then see if I can go back here and here and here and here. And then go here and then go down this way. To find it. And if I can't, I'm just going to simply talk and forget the detailed part. But I really want to get in what he said here. And now I'm getting this one. All right, Dave Stewart. Say Dave Stewart, Eurythmics. Let's just pick up what John Shea was saying here. All right, let's start with this. What's implied in this article is the A's would stay only if Oakland pays for everything and Fisher pays minimal. Stewart and Rickey are lamenting that fact and blame the city to a certain extent for not opening the coffers which don't exist. My response here was the coffers do exist, but the city of Oakland doesn't know how to do tax increment financing and will not call on those who do, like me, to implement it. I'm not feeling this bullshit. I've had enough. I've lived it. All right. Then Josh says they're really still trying to blame the Giants for this. And then there's a commercial. And then Thurman Martin says, bottom line, it's time for pro team owners to finance their own stadiums that ultimately will add value to the value of their franchises. Cities and counties shouldn't subsidize these businesses with taxpayer money. And really, technically, that's really inaccurate. They don't do that unless the team gives them part of the future increase in value. Yeah, this indicates a whole misunderstanding of the process, but I'll move on from that just to get to this. People cannot just handle the truth, says Alfredo. In 1995, when Mount Davis was announced, Oakland was warned that by 2016, if 3 new facilities were not built, they would lose all 3 teams. He's right. He says, I've seen nothing built and 2 are gone. And he's right. Alfredo is gone. He's right. And I remember Joe Lacob said to me, and I have that on video, he said, look, we're the first shoe to drop. That was at the 2012 party that the Warriors held at Pier 32 that the media mistook for a groundbreaking. All right. Patrick Moe says the problem is they're very vocal with their criticism of Oakland elected officials and completely silent when it comes to any criticism of Fisher. It feels a lot like that silence has been bought. And I really object to that. And so he said they have every right to criticize Oakland officials, but everyone else who looked at this also has very harsh criticism of Fisher, whereas theirs, the silence speaks volumes. And then Lonnie is Dave Stewart's wife. This is Dave Stewart's wife, okay? And she writes, it is directed at / as a result of personal experience with the city council behind closed doors. The ignorance of some people to think that in their 60s, they're all of a sudden go with being someone's sheep is ignorant. They're more secure now in their lives than when younger. That's certainly true for me, Lonnie. Patrick Moe says back to Lonnie, they have every right to criticize. This is what I said, okay? All right. Now, as we go, let's see if we can get out of that exchange there. If we move over a little bit and go down, Illuminati says the fact that the SF Giants couldn't even vote no symbolically. The fact is, I should say, we gave them San Jose to keep them in the Bay. They talked about how the A's leaving would be a shame. And in the end, they felt right in line like good little dogs, so weak. And Coach Darrow Verdad writes, the Chronicle is giving advice to Oakland's mayor about how to proceed. Poppycock. There's not a chance in hell that the Chronicle cares about what's best in Oakland. Something to be said for that. This person points out these 2 are on the Fisher payroll. That means the credibility is as good as Dave Commel's. The A's should be shown the door as quickly as possible unless an expansion team is granted and this team sells back to the city ASAP. Wait a minute. What about selling them to AESCG? That's interesting. Paul says the Ballers would give them something to cheer for at least. What about the Roots? The exodus of iconic teams is a shame. Peter Anthony Kinsole says, surprised the SF Giants ownership has not been criticized more. They did everything in their power to get Oakland to move. Matt says, what specifically did the city do wrong? You mean Oakland? Oh, are you kidding me? This is what I'm getting at. They don't pay attention. Mark Solario, cool name, says, Giants ownership, yes. They voted to let them go. But I still love my team. I'm sure the players don't want them to leave. Wheels and Trust says, they're being real. It's all about the money and damn thing funny. Tim Turner says, A's need to stay. And SMP and Lonnie says, thank you. Now, more replies. Bond Scott says, not everyone who spoke at Oakland City Council meetings wanted the A's to stay. City Council listened to those folks' concerns and in the end failed to get a deal done. If Oakland really wanted the A's to stay, they would have shown more of a sense of urgency. Major League Baseball warned Oakland. He's absolutely right. But see, Oakland, this is what I've said for a long time. Oakland has always been on Oakland time, not somebody else's. Let me get your comments here before I go too far with those on Twitter. And then I'll come back, and then I'll come back to those. All right. And I'm trying to go up further here. All right. And I will go. Okay, I got that one. Rap Album says Major League Baseball is acting as an egomaniacal bully, hell-bent on making an example out of Oakland. Let's find a league focused on real growth. Oakland sports needs to start somewhere. So Chai says, some of those comments come from gentrified Oakland, so they get surprised when pushback happens to original Oaklanders like yourself, Henderson and Stewart. Good point. Then so he goes on to write, gentrification Oakland versus original Oakland like yourself, Henderson and Stewart. Rap Album says, I'm sorry, I simply don't see boycotting baseball as a way to save baseball. Silly. I agree. Facts, Rap Album. We both say. Rap Album goes on that the truth is Major League Baseball needs Oakland more than Oakland needs Major League Baseball. I guarantee there are plenty of leagues that understand the value of Oakland. But you know what? I'm telling you, if we don't get the sea level rise problem solved in both Oakland and San Francisco, the value of the land to do anything here, especially to build large scale projects, will diminish dramatically, fast. It will be in indirect proportion to the rise in sea level over the course of time from now to 2050 and beyond. All right. So, I mean, we're not doing, again, here we are. We're talking about a big problem. What is Oakland doing? Nothing. Goose egg. All right. It's always and what I don't like is when you have elected officials who say we're working on it. We used to not do that. Working on it, when you wanted to present that you were actually working on something, you set up a task force. You had some members of the public on it. You knew when they were meeting. You knew what they were supposed to do in terms of producing an outcome. You knew all of that ahead of time. But this group that doesn't like to do the task forces, they want you to trust that they're doing something, and yet they come up with absolutely nothing. And that's a huge problem, okay? So, Rap Album says, you'd be right. However, Raiders, A's, and Warriors left. Oakland is valuable, but is under bad management. And then Sir Chai says, Alfredo was correct. When Raiders came back, Oakland should have built a new stadium and ballpark. Now all are gone. Yep. As I told Nate Miley that. Nate, I remember in late 96, when I was representing Mayor Harris on the Community and Economic Development Agency, and I put out that we need to build a new stadium for the Oakland A's because the emergence of Camden Yards in 93 pointed to this then new era of single-purpose stadiums. And we were multi-purpose, and we were going to go out of style really fast. Nate said, you mean to tell me that we always spent $200 million? We just spent $200 million bringing back the Raiders, and now we're going to have to spend, what, you say $197 million for the A's? And I said, yeah. We did nothing. We did absolutely nothing. But I warned them. Back then, I warned them. Okay. And then Robert Bob, that was 97, right? Robert Bob tried to get a downtown stadium built for the Athletics in 2002. But on May 12th, Jerry Brown said there's not going to be a fucking, he said it just like that. There's not going to be a fucking downtown stadium in Oakland as long as I'm mayor. That's what Jerry said. Okay? He said it just like that. All right? So, Rap Album says Raiders, Warriors, Athletics each have their own unique stadium problems. What they have in common is their respective leagues have shifted away from the ticket sales and TV contracts in favor of real estate. It's a little bit of both. And no, here's the problem. The reason why they didn't just shift it for reasons of like, I want to be greedy. Player salaries. All right, now we have players that are nearing $1 billion in contract size. One player. You got to pay for that some kind of way. You cannot do it by just saying, I'm going to have 40,000 people in a stadium. You have to have a bigger footprint of revenue collection. That's what's going on. Hey, you cap what the players are being paid. Different story, but cap, no. Like I'm saying, roll back the compensation to 2005. You're laughing. Okay, not happening. All right, you know it, and I know it. So what do? You're going to wind up building. Folks, you're going to wind up building baseball cities. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You're going to wind up building both baseball, football cities. You're going to wind up having what Stan Kroenke has, corporations that own multiple sports franchises. That's the way you have to go. So Kay Brown says, I wonder if any of the NFL or Major League Baseball owners knowing the possibilities in the Bay, have had any thoughts of putting their team in the Oakland market. Hey, look, we have a market. It is decent. So Chai says, what Oakland needs to understand is that subsidies in any form will always be needed to produce any stadium or project, 100%. Then thank you for the 2-bomb. Sir Chai says Oakland would turn on Joe Lacob if he bought the A's. Yeah, but Oakland also has Joe Lacob owning the WNBA team and its headquarters in Oakland, so I don't know about that. Sir Chai says, sorry, Z, what I meant to say was even if Joe Lacob bought the A's, Oakland would turn and troll Lacob if he doesn't toe the Oakland line. Even Lacob knows this. Yeah, but who? Oakland who? The fans that are basically blasting Oakland don't even live in Oakland. I mean, like I said to someone the other day, look, unless you've been bipped, carjacked, robbed, assaulted, kidnapped, or just plain outright stolen, had your car stolen, you think Oakland is much better than it really is. We're in a condition we should not be in. I'm proud to sponsor Oakland Restaurant Week to tell people to go to the restaurants. Why? Because no one's going out. You got to go out and support the restaurants. They need the foot traffic. All right? So we're not where we need to be. And so Rap Album says Generation Z is not sports crazy like millennials and Generation X. And then he goes on to say NFL, Major League Baseball, and NBA have no interest in Oakland because they can't build $5 billion sports mall nightmare. I don't know. The Coliseum could be that. The Coliseum could be a sports, city. I remind everybody of this. The reason why Las Vegas has gone hog heavy into building a sports industry and becoming number one in entertainment is because they know that these organizations all do one thing: put on television broadcasts that are seen by millions of people around the world, like Formula One. What does that translate to? Free advertising for them. And in an internet age, when Las Vegas ranks number one in search on Google, that translates into people who want to be there, which is great because vloggers that like Norma uh, in Las Vegas and others like the there are a number of bloggers, and they're all filled with names, but Norma's my favorite. They are act as unofficial tour guides for Las Vegas for those who are on the internet who may have seen something about Vegas and want to learn more, or like Travel Ruby, and they'll find Travel Ruby's video on a particular hotel or restaurant. And next thing you know, they're encouraged to go, and then they get on a plane and they go. All of that inures to Las Vegas' favor, and that kind of dynamic is what Oakland and what San Francisco especially should want to pick up. All right, that's the reason. But when it comes to sports, it's like doing nothing. Yet you have stadium authority after stadium authority after stadium authority around the United States. You've got Nashville poised to open or finish and then open its palace for the Tennessee Titans. And you've got the Washington Commanders building or working on building their stadium there to replace the one that's out at Dulles, near Dulles Airport. So, by the way, which Dulles was that named for? There's two Dulleses. I'll wait for your answer. So, at any rate, and so Rap Album says the reason why Nashville and Vegas are top candidates for new Major League Baseball teams is because they are completely gung-ho for real estate projects. No, the reason, I'll tell you why, is because they're separate reasons. The reason why they're gung-ho to do it is because both understand the value of sports entertainment. Las Vegas is the entertainment capital, but guess what? Nashville wants to be the entertainment capital of the South. All right? That's Nashville's aim. It's a tall order considering you've got Atlanta, which could take it away from them like that. And if gambling down here passes, you can bet your bippies the move will shift to Georgia and to Atlanta in particular. So it's a battle going on down here, but it's not a battle that's happening in Oakland. You cannot do sports gambling in Oakland because sports gambling in California is illegal. Big problem. That's the other thing that Rickey Henderson doesn't talk about, Dave Stewart doesn't talk about. I've talked about it again and again and again and again and again. Oakland A's fans seem like you totally blind to it, all right? Why? I don't know. So Chai says, I don't know, Z. Downtown Oakland on a Friday night is living thrilling music video crazy on Broadway Avenue. I know. But, development means cleanup to me. Gravity Fallout Pine says, between Fremont, Oakland, Coliseum City, Laney, and the Howard Terminal, which do you think was the best idea? The best idea, in my view, was Coliseum City because of the land, its proximity to the freeway, right off the freeway, its proximity to the airport, its proximity to the private airport, its proximity to Alameda. And not only that, if you think about it, it's the Coliseum. And, arguably it was already a city, right? It just needed some upgrading, add additional buildings. And if you're going to make it halfway, you might as well go the whole 9 yards, as the British would say, and you're referring to a armory that was on the Dreadnought, right? That's the idea. That was the best way. Howard Terminal, I didn't like initially, but then I came to like it. The reason why I didn't like it initially is because the first project, among the array of projects that was considered, was Uptown. And I thought Uptown was miles better than anything else. But of course, Jerry had to go and kill that one. Anyway. Then Sir Chai says, Atlanta over Nashville, even Charlotte is better than Nashville. Gravity Falls says, I agree. Coliseum City had the least resistance and would have revitalized the area. Right. But what do we do? In fact, if you don't know how Coliseum City started, all right, I want you, when you have a chance, I want you to type, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to Google, okay, and I'm going to show you here. I'm going to pull this up, and then I want you to go here. Just like what I'm doing, I'm going to show you a kind of a model way to go here, for want of a better term, right? You don't have to go to my Oakland News Now blog, but what I want you to do Well, the blog looks neat, doesn't it? I want you to go to Google, and I want you to go to Google, all right, first, and then I want you to type here, I want you to type Coliseum City Origins, all right, and which should come up, Oakland, all right, like that, okay, and then scroll down. It used to come up number 1. I think we have a lot of competition here, so I'll just simply say Zenny62. Boom. And there's Coliseum Stadium Plan right here. It's not really about Ryan Reynolds. I'll play that. All right,
Ryan Reynolds here.
Okay, let me
Big
skip
Wireless
that for
has once again raised their prices. In response,
Coliseum.
We're bringing back our deflation promotion.
Yeah, this is it. All right, I want you to take a look at this. Coliseum City Origins, Coliseum Stadium Plan for Oakland Athletics revealed in 2009 at Dellum's Group. This was a sports and entertainment group, and Chris DeBenedetti was the chair of the group. And
plan for yourself.
And so Charles Johnson's part of Oakland Ballers now.
One of the co-conveners of the Entertainment Sports Task Force here in the mayor's office. We basically had a lot of dust.
The late Bob Lesty, who was one of 3 people who created the Coliseum City concept. The other, Steve Lowe, who's living in Petaluma now, and the late Frank Dobson. So 2 of the 3 gentlemen have passed on. But they created the Coliseum City concept, okay? And the reason that they did so is because there was nothing to do around there. I mean, listen to Bob, okay? Listen.
In the last 3 years,
and it should not have had. It should have been done.
Right, should have been done. Yeah. But we're gonna go at it and see if it makes some sense. I mean, I know it makes sense. It's just a matter of whether there's a will and a consensus to do it.
And the it is basically rebuilding the Coliseum,
putting the A stadium there, and then creating an entertainment venue.
You hear that? Create an entertainment venue. This was 2009. They came up with this idea, folks, in 2004. All right. But the truth of the matter is that Larry Reed, District 7 council member, saw an opportunity from this and literally took the idea from Frank Robinson and Bob Lesty and Steve Lowe, put out an RFP for developers for Coliseum City, left them out of it, and upset Frank Dobson to the point where he came to city council and yelled that his project was stolen by Larry. This is true. Okay, Larry owes Frank Dobson a big apology, but there's a problem. Frank Dobson was so depressed that he left Oakland in 2010 and then died in Palm Springs. Just 2 years after that, okay? Died, all right? So the man came up with this terrific idea. Bob Lesty was his partner. Unfortunately, my good, I call him one of my fathers. He's been a mensch to me. His daughter, Linda, is just so beautiful and wonderful in Seattle. But a friend of mine. But they got together. They were the ones that created it. But my point, folks, is that nothing has been done. And you heard Bob earlier allude to what's been 3 or 4 years, right? I want to replay that comment he made because it tells we're always waiting, we're always doing nothing. Listen.
Pretty brief because it's gathered a lot of.
Hold on a second, right here.
Dust in the last 3 years,
and it should not have had. It should have been.
See, gathered a lot of dust. He's talking about that plan, okay? Gathered a lot of dust, all right? And so, all right, watch this and pass it around because not enough people have seen it.
Pretty brief because it's gathered a lot of dust in the last 3 years,
and it should not have had. It should have been done.
Right, should have been done.
Yeah, he's right. He's talking about the original Coliseum City idea. It should have been done. So Chai says, "Hey Zinni, can I get a history lesson? Why didn't Oakland and the Raiders ever consider a West Oakland stadium site for the Raiders?" Good question. The reason why that never happened was because first of all, West Oakland was the original site of the Oakland Army base. And there was a move starting in 2009 this is after the base closures. What happened was that back in 1994, the Base Closure and Realignment Commission was formed, and both nationwide, and each one had its committee on the local level, including Alameda County. Alameda County Supervisor Keith Carson was kind enough to put me on the Base Closure and Realignment Commission's committee representing the county in 1993 going to 94. One of the concerns was, of course, how the Oakland Army base would be disposed of. And so that was the beginning through the Base Closure and Realignment Committee, and then the Base Closure and Realignment Commission, which I would have loved to have been on, but didn't want to. They had all the engineers like Corby and everybody that, to me, did not have Oakland in their best interest collectively on it. I had talked about it too, and them. But at any rate, what happened after that was that the committee was formed and the plan was laid with the Navy to begin the long process and the arduous process of winding down historic functions, bases that played a major role in our history in matters like, for example, the delivering of the bomb. All right, the delivering of the bomb. And so, if in fact, just for grins, I believe if I type Alameda, and then base, and then atomic bomb. Let me see what I find here. Alameda base, Army base, and then atomic bomb. Marin was much armed with nuclear missiles, and there was in NAS Alameda was commissioned in 1940 and played a critical role in the Navy's defense mission following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. So my point is that these bases were no small potatoes. They're part of our history. And they employed many thousands of people and were responsible for the development of a whole culture in the Bay Area of that has carried us through even to this day. What was supposed to happen in West Oakland was the city, and as it is wont to do, the city rolled around on this too, was to determine a proper use for proper reuse for the Oakland Army base land. They held a competition. The Wayans brothers came through with an idea for a studio. There was another idea for an office complex. But my buddy Phil Tagami, had the better idea, which it was to build a bulk terminal. Bulk terminal because in the 1986 Bay Seaport Plan, it called for Oakland to have a bulk terminal to carry the kind of commodities that were not being appropriately handled to their capacity or ability at the time, and a problem that still exists really today. All right. So Phil brilliantly came up with this idea, knowing that it would meet the federal government's edict of replacing the low-skilled but high-paying jobs that were there because of the Army base with the same type of jobs, but with a bulk terminal. That was the idea. So the reason why the A's and the Raiders and the Warriors didn't go there was because no one had believed that sports stadiums at the time were the appropriate vehicle to replace the kind of jobs that were being lost. Not just jobs, but the kind of jobs. Remember, the federal government said you had to replace low-skilled, high-paying jobs. And as plentiful as jobs are, because of sports stadiums, the vast majority of them are low-skilled but low-paying or mid-range paying, not high-paying. So that was out of the picture, all right, from jump. That's what happened, okay? So that was what happened. And Let me see if I can go. Man, I don't want to miss your miss other comments here. It keeps giving me high current comments that I don't want to do. I don't want to hide anything. I'm trying to go up. It's not cooperating with me, so I'll click on this and I'll click on that. And then I'll go, okay, I got the history lesson. Now, Rap Album writes, Mayor Tao needs to develop a task force to make environmental reports on the Coliseum in relation to rising sea levels. We have those done, by the way. This could potentially shield Tao from unnecessary criticism and educate voters. No, it's the reverse, Rap Album. Those studies have been out there and done. We have a sea level rise plan. It was written in 2015. No one has done anything about it since then. All right? That's on Libby's watch. She did nothing. That's now on Sheng's watch. She's done nothing. Okay? So no, these studies and these plans are out there. They're done. They just need a cost estimate tied to them. But they're done. Rob Album says, Sir Chai, Raiders are a nomadic franchise who kind of left it to the other people to build a stadium. Raiders even played at Kezar and Candlestick prior to the Coliseum. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Now I'm going to come back to this regarding your history lesson, okay? And this is what led to the bulk terminal, which, if you pay attention to this aspect of Oakland history, Phil really didn't know what kind of commodities were going to come through there. Pat Cashman, representing the city of Oakland, hired the Tioga Group to write a market study and evaluation of the bulk terminal, and had really honed in for the city on coal as the commodity to be handled that would produce the best revenue bang for the buck, unknown to a lot of people. And Phil went to focus on that with the city, but then Tom Steyer came along starting in 2013, dumped, I believe, Tom Steyer was a former coal investor. You may remember that he ran for president more recently, but he put $3.3 million into legislation around California to try to force climate change upon the electorate. I don't say that in a derisive way. I'm just explaining what he did, okay? With the idea of really twisting a lot of arms to get projects that paid attention to climate change through in project in legislation that would favor investment in climate change passed. That was his idea. But along the way, he was scaring the heck out of Oakland's highly democratic officials, and they ran and headed for the hills away from what Phil was responsible for building. They dumped it all on Phil. And they tried to make it look like they didn't come up with it, and yet Betsy Lake, representing the city of Oakland, wrote on the development agreement, which I have a copy of, that coal was one of the commodities that was going to be handled, and it was right there for every city council member to see. The trouble is that Tom Steyer wasn't around to tell them, hey, by the way, this is a bad thing. You shouldn't be doing this, okay? Even though it really wasn't a bad thing. Phil had already formed a plan to move these coal through covered rail cars, which you can buy and set up in your special arrangement. The media types who were being paid by progressive interests to tell lies about this, you can always tell the truth and get things done, right? I don't like people who tell lies. They were trying to say there's no such thing as a covered rail car. There was, all right? Point I'm making is, by the presentation of how advanced this got, sports was completely out of the picture, okay? Completely. And so here's, let me see, we've got, here we go, where are we? Oh, I got the history list, okay? And then Rap Album says, Mayor Tao needs to develop a task force. I got that, about sea level rise. And I got that one. And then Rap Album says, I believe the sea levels may explain Coliseum City gathering dust. Oakland City needs to be upfront about an environmental situation in East Oakland. Well, it's happening in front of the city. The city, I'm trying to explain this to people, all right? The city is literally lazy. All right, I've worked for the city. I remember back in 87 when I was hired as an intern, and the second month in, after I had discovered that my kind of indirect boss, the late Ezra Rapport, was doing something with to EB Mudd's property that EB Mudd didn't know he was doing, and I discovered it. Gene Morris said to me, "Man, you got three problems. You're young, gifted, and black." That's how he talked. He talked like Uncle. He talked like Festus in Gunsmoke. If you ever seen Gunsmoke, man, I got my gun. I got my holster. That was the late, not late. I hope not, but the great Gene Morris. And anyway, great guy. Anyway, someone else said, I remember when I wanted to do legislation, we had a pile of. We used to get. This is before the internet. We used to get these books that would publish what bills were coming before the California legislature, and the city of Oakland was to determine which ones it wanted to have passed or killed or whatever, right? They had left it to a woman by the name of Harriet to look at these. She had a pile of these things on her desk unread. So me, fresh out of Cal, intern, got my master's. I said, "Hey, can I do these for you?" And she resisted. I had actually go to our mutual boss and say, "Austin, this is sitting on her desk. She won't even let me read them." So she gives them to me and she says to me, "I guess you can tell we don't like smart people around here." All right? Okay? This is Oakland's DNA. All right? Back then, and I'm saying it like this because I've tried to come up with all kinds of reasons why Oakland has behaved the way that it has. And finally, I just have gone with what I've experienced and what I see, what's in your face. In other words, if the person is who they are, take them that way. All right. They're lazy. They don't want to do any work. They want to make enough money to have their lifestyles. All right. That's the Bay Area. The Bay Area is about lifestyle. It's about if you are fortunate enough to get a job where you're PhD level, you work at a university, you can get well paid to do something that, in terms of research, you're really interested in, bravo. Or at one of the private organizations that also pays well to do research that then becomes some path-breaking product that helps you in healthcare or some other area, right? Or if you're in the service industry, you're starting your own businesses, you're an entrepreneur, you're getting investors who maybe made their money in these areas and have enough money to spend it on what you're doing, and then you make a lot of money that way, or you make something high tech and you get like Steve Jobs and Apple. You get the idea. That's the Bay Area, okay? And so, but what you're doing is you're making enough money and you're spending it in an area that has some of the most beautiful vistas in the world. And what does that equal? Money. Okay? So that money under good areas when everything's popping like it did in the 90s and then later in the 2000s when it's popping, we had affordable housing policy to make sure through redevelopment that affordable housing was being built. But Jerry Brown killed that in 2011. And then what happened was we had a rise in the number of homeless. All right. And here we are. Okay, here we are. And we're at this place where it's all but austerity planning. We do some spending, but not the spending we need. And Oakland has been allergic to spending money on anything. Hey, $242 million for a shopping center for Uptown? Nope, city balked at that. I know because I was there covering city council in 1993. Oakland District 4 Councilmember Dick Spees was sitting right in front of me and saying, "I don't think we can afford this." And I was trying to explain to him then the magic of tax increment financing. Okay? The only thing we used tax increment financing for was, frankly speaking, helping developers, having additional staff to help the developers, but we're paying our own staff. We weren't asking them to pay for it then. Or removing crack houses in East Oakland. But you cannot point to a large number of projects. There were a handful, like Acorn, that used redevelopment monies. We never used redevelopment tax increment financing to its full potential in Oakland's entire history, with as many project areas as we had. And yet, those project areas were helping Oakland to pay those high salaries to its employees, thus keeping it out of worse deficit trouble. And so Sir Chai says, rap album, well, Oakland should have given the two-time Super Bowl champion Raiders a new stadium in the early 80s, would have avoided the whole mess. Well, we actually did. You have to remember something. Oakland had the Raiders left Oakland in 79 because the late, great first African-American mayor, that was Lionel J. Wilson, didn't want to give Al Davis the luxury boxes he sought. And so you know the story. Al literally challenged not just the city of Oakland, but the whole NFL and won in court and moved. So what the Raiders did was they said, hey, look, you're not going to give us what we want here. We're going to go down to the LA County Coliseum. The trouble is that the LA County Coliseum people were actually treating the Raiders worse. The Raiders didn't get anything they were promised down there. All right. And so that's why Al began to seek a way home, noting that it was great when the Raiders won the Super Bowl in LA, but then when things started to go south, and then the LA County Coliseum was basically doing this, okay? He said, all right, you know what? I'm going to play both ends of this. I'm going to set it up so that either LA is giving me a new stadium or Oakland is. And so at the 11th hour, when he had a press conference set up at Hollywood Park, instead of going to that press conference, he left and went to Oakland. All right? That was 1995. I remember driving along, and John Madden was on the radio on KCBS saying, well, you know, they better hurry up talking about the Raiders because I think it was some deadline that had to be met or something like that. Oh, what a time. All right? So Chai says, we may have a Tao Spy rap album. Nice try. We're going to recall something like that. At any rate, rap album says more history. The Raiders were originally called the Oakland Conquistadors with a color scheme of black and gold. He says not a pair of these. Okay. And then Sir Chai says, appreciate the history lesson. I made a visit to Baltimore and the stadium reminded me of a West Oakland Raiders stadium. That's why I asked. Cool. And then he goes on to the rap album and says, Baltimore has a wonderful stadium district by the wharf. So I've seen. Bottom line is Oakland a dying city? No, bottom line is Oakland wanting to live or die? Oakland can turn this around. All right? It's not that Oakland is dying by just natural causes. All these problems, sea level rise, sports, all these housing, homeless, all these can be changed by proper government action. But we haven't had that in Oakland. That's the problem. Rap album says the worst thing to ever happen to California was Schwarzenegger as governor, rolling blackouts and all that. Now, I voted for Arnold twice. And I'll tell you why. You know what? I'll tell you why. Because I felt that the Democratic Party had ossified to a point of inaction. And arguably, we're there today. And what solidified my perception was I passed by then great Senator John Burton at a fundraiser for then District Attorney Kamala Harris. And I said, I never met John before. I said, how you doing, Senator? He said, fuck off. What? Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? That's what he said to me. I froze for like 3 seconds. And I thought, you know what? Best course of action, keep going. So I just did. He had already kept going. You know? I thought no one does that unless they think you have no juice to do anything about it, to say anything about it. That was the level of arrogance that our party operated on back then. And that's why I voted for Arnold. Okay? Because as far as I was concerned, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a Democrat in Republican clothing. I never considered Arnold Schwarzenegger a real Democrat. And even he admitted that he likes being a Republican because Republicans pay better attention to business than Democrats do. Kind of hard to argue with that. All right? That was it. If we as a party ever get our act together with respect to business, I mean, we've had some good moments, but never quite 100% there. We have the ability to take that mantle from the Republican Party if we want to. Facts. Yeah. Gary Trash says, I'm wondering what, if anything, was done about the sea level rise issue around Chase Center and the Giants ballpark. Well, because that's new. Well, the Giants is a good question, but the way it's built around there, they didn't, at the time, sea level rise wasn't considered. So that area down there needs to be overhauled. But the way it sits, as you walk in, well, you still have to go down. So that it has to be addressed. But I believe that area of Kings. I'm not sure where that is at in terms of its elevation. I need to look at the map there specifically. So I'm not going to comment until I get better information. I'll come back to you on that one, Gary. It's a good question. Rap Album says Giants are one of the most successful franchises in Major League Baseball. Laugh out loud, ignore the one-loss record. They'll be fine. And then Rap Album says Schwarzenegger was when a lot of California's racial tensions exploded. But I don't fault him for that. That's a whole nother conversation. At any rate, I think, let me see here. I want to go back and see if there's anything that I missed in terms of comments out of fairness, because I want to get on Twitter, all right? Because I want to get those out of the way before I close up shop here in the next 9 minutes. And that is here. Yeah. I believe I got bond size earlier. And then Robert Jasso says, Stu and Rickey are right. 0 for 3 in a very counterintuitive way in dealing with business and industry. The leaders of both San Francisco and Oakland need replacing, and the politics that inspired this garbage should be flushed in the nearest system. Felipe says, yes, yeah, let's blame the city for not giving away free money, and they'll never see return on investment from them. Tell the fucking billionaire to build it without taxpayer money. I disagree with that. And I disagree with that because it's public money, not taxpayer money. And let me get to some misconceptions here, all right? First of all, tax increment financing produces money out of a property tax from buildings that were not there before the creation of the tax increment financing zone. So it's new money, and it's paid for by property owners. Generally, we're talking about offices and offices and entertainment and events. They tend to be either organizations that are part of real estate investment trusts. So the eventual owner of that property is actually not even in Oakland. They're someplace else. They are leasing from property that would be owned by in this case, the Athletics within the time increment financing zone. All right. But the bottom line is what you're not doing is you're not going to residents around the city and saying, pay up. That's what I'm getting at. All right. And if you have a separate redevelopment agency with its own coffers, with a lease agreement and an underwriting agreement that the bond underwriters will take over a development project, if it doesn't pay its bond freight, right? Or you restructure the bonds, then you can make 100% certain it doesn't touch city coffers. There are ways to do this. You cannot float a bond in Harris County, which is Houston, Texas, all right? You cannot float a bond there that bases its revenue on the general fund. That's not legal there. You have to do at least revenue, and you have to restructure it. That happened to the Houston Texans in the construction of their stadium, which was at one point called Energy Stadium. All right, cool place if you've never been there before. They had that problem around the time of the 2008 crash, and so what did they have to do? They were stuck. They had to restructure the bond. But hey, did anybody hear about the stadium being demolished or anything like that? No. They came out just fine. That's what I'm explaining to you. This can be done, folks. All right, this can be done. And so I don't accept that idea. And again, it's not off the backs of the taxpayer. This also gets us to the community benefits agreements. The idea is that if the billionaire, or whatever you want to call them, is going to get assistance in terms of public money, not necessarily taxpayer money. All right. Yeah, property tax, but it tends to be large payers. All right. But my point is that if they're going to get public assistance from a tax increment financing, if they're going to get that, then, and they get it, and here's gets to a problem with John Fisher, which I'll get to in a second. All right. But if they're going to get tax increment financing, then you have to turn around and say, hey, look, we have a community benefits process. And so if we're going to give you this subsidy, we want you to finance our new, a portion of our new school construction, our percentage of subsidy that'll cause affordable housing to be built. Not the whole thing, because look, you don't want somebody financing affordable housing structure. You want them to work with a developer that's building a market rate structure that's well done, and then filling in the gap needed by subsidy to lower the rental costs or the mortgage costs so that they're affordable or extraordinarily affordable, but you get a nice building so that it stays up well. It's not, it's low maintenance and all that sort of thing. In other words, high quality. You want to build trash. You're not creating a slum. That's not the idea. Okay. So that's what you do. Then you've got, all right. So you say audio. Oh, did my audio go out again? Say audio again. Audio? Can you hear? I think, can you hear me? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Let me see if you can hear. Maybe test this, all right? Oh boy. I see that, but let's see here. You can hear? Okay, great. All right. Because I'm looking at my dashboard here. For some particular reason, I'm not getting, say, Zenny 62. Okay, that's Zenny 62 all. Then me. And, view channel. Oh, okay, there's that. So if I press on it.
QuickBooks mobile app. Seamlessly track your spending.
Okay, there's that. So if I press on it. All right, cool. I got it. All right, you can hear. Thank you. All right. So at any rate, I'll give you that bottom line. Now, at the end, before I close, I want to talk about Dave Stewart and the situation right AESCG. John Shea got it wrong. The reason why AESCG beat out Dave Stewart was because the proposal that I received from an anonymous source that was filed by Lonnie and Dave was done by a gentleman who was a trained nuclear engineer who lived in the East Coast. And he did not have he did a credible job of presenting a false reality. He gave the unsuspecting reader the idea that the whole group had developed a new town outside of Prince George's, Maryland. All right? That's what he did. And I looked at it. I looked at the proposal. And I thought, wait a minute. How come I've never heard of this? Okay. And not that I thought, I'm not supposed to hear about everything. Stop being so arrogant. And so I went over to Prince George's County and looked up the name of the development, and nothing came up. Nothing. And I had an absolute fit. And so I wrote about it. And it wasn't, although I think Lonnie and Dave, it wasn't a hit piece. It was a truth piece. It's always been told to us as Black folks that it's hard enough for us to get the jobs we want, the level of income, and so on. So given how hard it is, make absolutely certain that what you submit and what you do is number one, top notch. Top notch. You don't cut corners. You don't fake it with the idea that you're going to make it. And so that's why I took the action that I did. And I talked to Lonnie about it. We had a good conversation because, she was understandably upset. I get it. I get it. I think they understand now. It's the same reason why, this same set of reasons why I talked against Ray Bobbitt, the head of the AASCG land, as he puts it, because I discovered, first of all, Ray had called me and he scared the crap out of me by basically asking if I was loyal to him. I regard him as a friend I love very much. But Ray was going through a lot of problems I'm not even going to put out here. And I wasn't really aware at that time. But still, the way this man who's supposed to be my friend came back at me scared me. Because I was in the middle of trying to get him and Brian Dixon and Karim Mohammed back together as one. And Lamont Ubuye, who is partnered with Ray, back together as one. Because there was no reason they should be fighting. All right? No reason they should be disagreeing. It's enough when it seems that the economic winds are closing on us. Then you have to fight with each other for scraps. No. They had an exclusive negotiating agreement. And what they started to go through reminded me of what happened when the Oakland Alameda County Sports Commission that I created from scratch successfully led Oakland to be one of 3 finalists for the right to host the 2005 Super Bowl. Suddenly, everybody took up weird behavior, punctuated by Jerry Brown going behind my back with Ignacio De La Fuente and having meetings with the CEO group over a sponsorship idea I came up with that was blessed by Visa, head of global sponsorships, Mike Lynch, who, by the grace of God, I had the chance to run into on the same airplane flight back from New York to San Francisco because the Lord put us in the same row of the doggone plane. You hear me? Same row. What I experienced in trying to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland and failing by but 8 NFL owner votes should be a movie. So, point I'm making is that what Dave Stewart and Lonnie were doing was all set up in a way that I felt was not kosher. I also objected to Mayor Schaaf pitting one black developer against another rather than forcing them to team up. But she had to have this competition, which, no surprise there, would eventually divide the black community or those that are involved. And that's what has happened. And Sheng Thao has only exacerbated that. But back then we had Elaine Brown coming in, representing Dave Stewart, and they were using the white press to talk against Ray Bobbitt. Ray, to his credit, wasn't firing back. It wasn't his nature. But Ray managed to get in, and he forgot that when you're establishing a team, you don't make the team reflective of your weaknesses. You recognize your weaknesses and you bring people around you who make those weaknesses strengths. He had them. But see, Ray had this idea that everybody had to bow down to his idea instead of arguing. Arguing is good. Arguing means you have people who are active, who want something better, who are engaged, and they want to know that you're hearing them and their ideas because they're willing to hear you and yours. That was a situation he had with Brian and Karim. But he didn't want that. So what he did was he went out, and this is what tore me. When I discovered, because I didn't believe it at first until it was presented to me, he made not one, but he made 4 different limited liability organizations filings, all with him named as a manager, whereas I have the original copy where they were all listed as managers. What Ray Bobbitt was trying to do is illegal. You don't handle business relationships that way. It was yet another example of us as black folks trying to literally stick the knife to another one of us who's black folks. I'm saying it just like that publicly. All right? Okay? So we have Dave and his group not putting in a proposal that was honest, that said, hey, look, here's what we're really going to build over here. Here's how our finances is going to look. Dave said he had more money to buy the land. That wasn't the point of it. The point of it is what you're going to do with it. All right? And Dave and his people were literally kind of piecemealing things together. Whereas Ray had hired designer, architect, cobbled together older concepts of Coliseum City that go back to Bob Lesty, Steve Lowe, and moved forward on building what should have been built a long, long time ago. That was the idea. It's a good idea. Still is a good idea. But I remind everybody sitting here and watching, we've still done nothing. And it's oh so Oakland to have 2 groups fighting over each other. Or maybe one time we get the perfect developer, but then the perfect developer is taken away from us. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Michael Spear in 1991, who represented the Rouse Corporation, spearheading the 2 million square foot shopping center that was originally going to be built, along with what we now call the Grove Shafter Freeway, coming out of the Caldecott tunnel, going down through from the hills and then turning into downtown Oakland. There are people who didn't like it because it was metaphorically the rich white people coming from the hills, coming into downtown Oakland and taking their money out. I tend to look at it as more the rich white people coming in, just like they go to Union Square, right? And then coming in and spending their money and then going home with products and leaving the money in Oakland. I thought that was a better analogy. Oakland is replete in its history, its development history, with these controversies. Let's take the area we call Uptown. When I was grad student at Berkeley, I wrote a paper called Jumping on the High-Tech Bandwagon Without an E-Ticket, the story of Oakland's attempt to establish a high-tech industry. It was about two projects. The Oakland Airport Business Park that did come to fruition, but not as intended. And then the bigger story of Oakland trying to build this 2 million square foot shopping center and failing. Because after what happened with Michael Spear was this. Michael Spear died in a helicopter crash. And with him, literally died that raison d'etre, that je ne sais quoi that a developer has when they believe in something. Doesn't matter if it's David Malmuth, developing the Oscars. David was on my show 2 weeks ago. All right? Or you pick the developer that really got something done. Or Phil Tagami with the Rotunda or anybody else. Okay? My point is that Michael Spear died. And that was in 91. Died. And then he was trying to get the project to keep going. But prior to my Mr. Spear, there was, I'm sorry, Michael Spear died earlier than 891. But at any rate, in 1985, when came the original vote to build the shopping center, there was a feeling that this shopping center, designed to bring the rich white money from Contra Costa County and into Oakland to buy things and eat and then leave, was not to the benefit of black people from the perspective of the subsidy that the city was going to give to the developer. So a gentleman by the name of Paul Cobb, who was the head of the Oakland Citizens Committee for Urban Renewal, got together not less than 45 different community groups to storm City Hall and force the city council to reject that subsidy. That was the first example of that death. Now, if that sounds strangely like the Howard Terminal debates of today, then what you see is that Oakland has never solved its race investment problem through the decades, ever. All right? That's the real untold story. We watched the decline in manufacturing, which decimated Oakland, led to the closure of the General Motors plant, which became Eastmont Mall. But then when manufacturing jobs dried up, Eastmont Mall went down into, the whimper of its former self that it is today. Should be replaced with something else like a Tesla plant. But around it, as manufacturing was dying, crime was increasing. That's right. To a point where by the 90s, East Oakland was known as ground zero for gang crime in the Bay Area. Okay? So we've never had a peace. We've had successes here and there. Phil opening up the Rotunda, leading to a mini revitalization of downtown Oakland. And then as consultant to the city, developer consultant, reviving the decades long closed Fox Theater, which is now a major venue for talent known throughout the world. Name the group. Hey, Talking Heads, saw them in concert there. I can go on and on and on. Bravo, Phil. All right. So the point is that we have had some development successes. Brooklyn Basin is one. Oak to Ninth. Threatened to be another disaster or project. But Mike Gilmetti skillfully maneuvered himself politically. And it wasn't a black-white issue that was involved. Okay? Because it wasn't a case of a black area or African Americans not getting a shot. It was a wholly unused area that was owned by one person, J.W. Silvera. So we had our successes, but where there wasn't that controversy. For the most part, there has been that controversy. Fortunately, we have areas like the port, the airport, but even then the development is not what it should be. And Oakland has been allergic to the job of supporting its minority, and particularly its black entrepreneurs over its time. We've done some things well, like when we had the Oakland Economic Development Corporation under Arnold Bello, or the Oakland, when it was running well, the Oakland Housing Authority. So we're not totally without our successes. We are, with some, but not enough to steer us. Jerry Brown, instead of building downtown in a normal way, he just wanted 10,000 units of housing. But then Jerry announced later he didn't want public money to be spent in downtown on affordable housing. He wanted his elegant density, which to him meant rich people. Jerry said that in 2020, thereby affirming something that he had originally been accused of thinking way back in the year 2000. Okay? So we have not gotten it right because of a lot of disagreements which always had the undercurrent of racism and a constant lack of investment in Oakland where it's needed. Constant. It's always, oh, we can't afford that. Oh, we don't have the money. And then, have my Libby on my show, and she says, well, we don't do development anymore. Instead, we're going to use enhanced infrastructure financing district legislation, which is redevelopment. Because she said we didn't have the staff that had the talent. We don't do that. We haven't done that in a long time, she said. Well, Libby didn't quite understand it. Here I am, a taxing and financing expert. All right. So I'm just giving you the unvarnished truth, folks, because somebody needs to tell it. And Sheng is the reason why Sheng is headed for recall is because she's the first person in Oakland's history to openly pit people against each other in Oakland. Look, for all of its faults, Oakland has historically operated itself with this idea. I may argue with you, but you're part of my family, and I will defend you against somebody outside attacking you. We've never had a situation where a politician was literally pitting one group of folks against the other. And Libby started that, and Sheng took it up. And that's a sad fact. Libby is my god sister. I love her. But I do not love how Libby handled running the city of Oakland. And I don't love the strong mayor system because it has literally destroyed us. Okay? All right. So anyway, Oakland needs affordable family entertainment no matter the league. That's why when I say NHL, Major League Soccer, arena football might be best option. And Gravity Falls says, what's the realistic best case scenario for Oakland moving forward? Do you think MLB, NFL, NBA will ever return? Yeah. And what has to be done is Mayor Thao, first of all, has to call all hands. Not some hands, not people who are her supporters, but bring in people she doesn't like. Call on us. Don't sandbag us. Form an old-fashioned task force. Everybody at the table that's needed to be there. Government, community, experts, and staffers. Window. Well, at the end, we can come up with a plan that consists of, among other things, a resolution to implement the plan or a series of them. We're going to need that. And then move forward. And give ourselves a drop dead date. And then punish ourselves if we don't get it, like a fine or something. I'm serious. And then do it. Okay? And then do it. With respect to sea level rise, because I don't care what you're talking about building. We can't build anything along our waterfront if we don't solve the sea level rise problem first. So that has to be integrated into new development. So we have to change the Coliseum JPA into a stadium authority, a stadium development authority, or facilities development authority that's responsible for implementing sea level rise down there. And we can have a similar organization for West Oakland and downtown. Okay? Both can have a great deal of reach. And for those who might be concerned about our property taxes going to that, guess what? You can borrow from the redevelopment agency and and then pay back the redevelopment agency. That's the neat thing about setting it up. We have to treat this as our own Manhattan project. We have to, for a change in this city, think big and then actually do it. Not, dream big, but then not do it, right? We have to think big and then do big. We cannot fear big plans. We cannot be afraid of doing the big thing that needs to get done. And right now, we're at this place where we have to do the big thing that needs to get done because the sea level rise problem is literally a ticking clock time bomb. That's the problem. Okay? So, as I said before regarding expansion, Major League Baseball, we need to show an artist rendition and a financial plan on what it's going to look like and how we're going to get there. You can't talk your way into implementation. You have to do it. You have to do it. Period. That's what it takes. All right, folks, it is almost 2 hours. Live long and prosper. And if anybody has any other questions, please let me know. If you haven't subscribed to Zenny62 on YouTube, and bookmark. We have so many, but I'm really happy about ZennyReport.com. Or I'll see you later. I'm happy about all of them. Oscar News, OscarMovieNews.com. Yeah. OscarsMovieNews.com. Boom. All right, see you later. That ends this stream.